For 11 years, the Indian Ocean has kept its silence. No debris field, no black box, no clear trail of what happened to the 239 souls aboard Malaysia Airlines flight MH370. But that silence ended the moment a drone, equipped with sonar 100 times more powerful than anything used in earlier searches, detected something the ocean should never have been able to produce. A structured rhythmic acoustic signature, not geological, not biological, but patterned. The detection wasn't made in real time. It first appeared buried inside a block of raw seafloor imagery, unreadable to the human eye, indistinguishable to old sonar systems, and dismissed by early algorithms as nothing more than background scatter. But then came a breakthrough. When Ocean Seer's new processing software ingested a deep trench scan from Ocean Infinity's 2025 survey, the sonar signature lit up like a beacon, a narrow band of reflected sound arranged in a pattern too clean to be natural. And the coordinates? They fell directly along a corridor investigators had once written off. A corridor thought to contain nothing but empty water and ancient rock formations. Into this moment steps the person who would become central to the mystery, Dr. Ayla Renner, a quiet specialist known for hearing what others miss. She had spent her early career at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, analyzing faint signals buried in cosmic noise. Later, she shifted her focus to the deep ocean, a place she often described as another universe, just harder to reach. Her expertise was not ordinary sonar. It was quantum resolution backscatter analysis, a technique designed to reconstruct the shape, density, and material composition of submerged objects using their leftover acoustic fingerprints. Where others saw static, Renner saw meaning. On a quiet night in late February 2025, she opened the data package labeled Sector 14B, Trench Perimeter. Inside, she found the anomaly, a narrow symmetrical distortion exactly 46.7 milliseconds apart, the kind of echo produced when sound bounces off a dense metallic surface with complex geometry. The pattern repeated twice. Never before, never again. Something heavy was sitting on the seafloor, and it had just revealed the first hint of its shape. At first, Renner considered the usual suspects: abandoned container ship debris, geological shelves fracturing underwater, seismic echoes from deep ocean quakes, but none matched the acoustic profile. Then she layered the data through a second filter, one designed for aircraft fuselage curvature. The system hesitated, reconstructed, and displayed a contour so unmistakable that Renner's breath caught. A fragment of cylindrical metal with dimensions consistent with a commercial wide-body airliner. But that wasn't the part that sent her rushing to alert the investigation team. It was the angle of the reflection. The object wasn't lying flat. It was angled sharply into the sediment, as if it had struck the seabed with incredible force, carving downward before the ocean's silt buried it. For the first time in 11 years, the data revealed a story. Not a gentle glide, not a controlled descent, impact, violent, sudden, final. But a deeper mystery remained, because the reflected echo also carried something else, a secondary distortion, the kind produced when a signal interacts with internal compartments. Renner replayed the filtered sequence, again and again, and every time the anomaly whispered the same impossible message. This object is hollow, structured, manufactured. Something human-made was down there, something massive, something the ocean had concealed for over a decade. On that night, Renner sent a single message to the search team aboard Ocean Infinity's vessel. You need to look at Sector 14B again, not with standard sonar, with the new array. I think we missed something. But she left one line unspoken, the one she wrote only in her private notes. If this signal is authentic, then MH370 never drifted. It hit the ocean in one catastrophic moment. For years, investigators believed they had searched every place MH370 could have fallen. But early sonar systems weren't powerful enough to see through the deep ridges, steep walls, and sediment traps of the Indian Ocean. Huge sections of the seabed were mapped with low-resolution equipment, tools that could detect submarines, but not a partially buried aircraft. The area now called Sector 14B was one of those overlooked corridors. It wasn't ignored on purpose. The technology simply wasn't capable of revealing what was hidden inside it. Ocean Infinity's 2018 mission came closer, but even their AUVs couldn't penetrate the trench formations where signals bent and vanished. Everything changed with the new 100x strength sonar system deployed in 2025. When Dr. Ayla Renner overlaid these new scans onto old search grids, the truth became clear. Sector 14B had never truly been seen. Not by satellites, not by aircraft, not by any previous sonar. And the anomaly detected there, a metallic arc buried in sediment, aligned perfectly with MH370's final satellite path. For the first time in 11 years, sonar and satellite data pointed to the same place. The ocean hadn't been empty, we just weren't able to see what it was hiding. The ocean's upper layers are restless, loud, alive. But as the drone dropped past 1,000 meters, the sound faded. At 2,500, the world narrowed to darkness and pressure. By 4,000 meters, even the ocean stopped moving. This was the zone search teams called the Silent Corridor, a part of the Indian Ocean where sonar waves often vanish into sheer walls of basalt, and where earlier missions recorded unexplained echoes that no one could interpret. For years, investigators believed those echoes were nothing more than geological distortion. But that was before the arrival of AUV-9, the drone fitted with the new 100 times strength sonar array. Not a flashlight, not a scan. A weapon designed to pierce the deepest blind spots on Earth. As AUV-9 entered the trench perimeter of Sector 14B, its sensor rack activated in sequence. Side-scan sonar spread outward like wings. Synthetic aperture sonar stitched sound into a hyper-detailed picture. Quantum backscatter emitters pulsed in controlled bursts. Density phase detectors searched for hollow metallic voids beneath sediment. Above, on the support vessel's control room, the first returns appeared as faint grayscale shadows on a monitor. Then Renner's voice cut through the static. Increase aperture width. Slow the forward speed. We're entering the distortion zone. The drone obeyed. The trench walls grew narrower, sharper, more vertical. The kind of terrain that swallows signals, bends sound, and hides everything from wrecks to entire submarine hulls. Earlier missions avoided these areas. They were too steep, too risky, and too chaotic for the imaging tools of their time. But AUV-9 was built for it. Built for exactly this kind of void. At 4,780 meters, the sonar caught something. A flash. Then a curvature. Then a silence in the data. The type of acoustic void created when sound hits a hard, manufactured surface and scatters. The control room fell quiet. A single cursor blinked over the anomaly. Renner leaned in. Run it again. The drone emitted another pulse. This time, the reflection returned with unmistakable precision. A convex metallic arc, partially buried, angled into the slope at 32 degrees. Too smooth to be rock. Too symmetrical to be a natural formation. But the drone wasn't done. It rotated 10 degrees, firing a narrow beam scan directly into the anomaly. What came back wasn't just an outline. It was a density profile. The object was hollow. A chamber-like void surrounded by curved, high-density material. The exact imprint of a pressurized aircraft fuselage. The room froze. The pilot of AUV-9 whispered, "That's not geological." But the scan kept building, piece by piece, layer by layer, and the anomaly grew larger. As the drone advanced, the sonar began constructing a distorted but recognizable shape. Not a full aircraft, not a perfect silhouette. Something damaged, crushed, but still intact enough to tell a story. Renner's software classified the reflections. Outer curvature consistent with aircraft hull, internal void spacing resembling cargo hold dimensions, high-density ridge compatible with reinforced wing attachment points. The data was starting to align with the shape of a wide-body commercial aircraft. But something else appeared, a shadow. A long, linear indentation carved into the slope, nearly 40 meters long. A trench, a scar, created by something massive hitting the seabed at high velocity. The exact scar Renner predicted from her preliminary analysis. "Zoom in," she said. The drone dipped lower, sweeping another burst of sound across the seabed. This time the sonar returned something shocking. The indentation matched simulations of a Boeing 777 impact path almost perfectly. Angle, depth, curvature. It was all there, but as the data rendered, something didn't fit. The scar was too clean, too precise. Aircraft debris fields are chaotic. Pieces scatter, wings shear, sections tear apart. But this? It looked like a singular body had struck, not a disintegrated one. A controlled shape, a preserved geometry, almost as if the aircraft had remained largely intact until the moment it hit the ocean floor. Renner lowered her voice. "This doesn't match the drift theory, or the uncontrolled descent model." Her assistant turned. "Then what does it match?" She stared at the screen. Something that ended in a single, catastrophic event. Not a glide, not a breakup. A silence settled, the kind that comes only when evidence begins contradicting everything the world thought it knew. Then the sonar caught something else. A faint, repeating echo, softer than the metal arc, deeper than the trench, but unmistakably artificial. It wasn't the debris, it wasn't rock. It was a signal within the slope, a secondary anomaly hidden beneath sediment. Renner froze. No, that can't be right. But the sonar confirmed it again. A distinct, rhythmic, acoustic return. Not a beacon, not an emergency transmitter. Something older, fainter, but structured. The room filled with tension, the kind that tightens the air itself, because whatever the drone had found was still emitting a trace of sound, not active, not powered, just echoing, like a memory locked in metal, a memory the ocean somehow preserved for 11 years. Renner exhaled slowly. "Send the drone deeper. We're not finished here." AUV-9 slowed its descent as it approached 5,000 meters, where pressure crushed metal like paper and light had never touched the sea floor. To navigate this darkness, the drone deployed the system the team had been waiting for. HLO, High-Lux Optical Array, a new generation of deep-sea imaging that could cut through suspended sediment and reveal objects with startling precision. The lights ignited, not bright, but razor-sharp, illuminating a narrow cone in front of the drone. At first, only dust clouds swirled in the beam, but then the shape appeared, soft, curved, metallic. The room went silent. When the high-resolution camera stabilized, the image sharpened. A section of fuselage, still intact, half buried under layers of sediment and rockfall. But something was wrong, very wrong. The curvature of the metal did not match an aircraft that had disintegrated on impact. There was no explosive deformation, no outward buckling, no sharp tears. Instead, the metal was bent inward, smooth, uniform, as if crushed by pressure long after it had reached the bottom. A controlled collapse, not a violent breakup. Renner leaned forward. "Widen the frame." The drone obeyed, drifting sideways in slow, controlled arcs. More details emerged. Windows partially visible, clouded by silt. A clean longitudinal seam, characteristic of a 777 fuselage joint. Rivets still aligned, not sheared, a sign that the structure failed after burial, not before impact. The assistant whispered, "This isn't consistent with mid-air disintegration." Renner nodded. "And it's not consistent with a high-speed, uncontrolled dive either." The room felt colder. For 11 years, investigators argued over catastrophic explosions, depressurization, pilot intent, fuel starvation. But none of those scenarios created this signature. Whatever happened, the aircraft, or at least this section of it, reached the ocean in one piece. A few meters farther, the drone detected a second object protruding from sediment. Sonar pronounced the shape first, a long, tapered structure. "Run a density overlay," Renner said. The imaging returned almost immediately. High-density titanium, layered composite structures, reinforced load-bearing point, a wing root section. But again, the damage pattern contradicted every prior theory. There was no explosive tearing, no shredded carbon fiber, no jagged stress fractures typical of mid-air breakup. Instead, the wing root showed compression, not fragmentation, as if water pressure had bent it inward over time, meaning it was likely buried deeply and protected from the violent forces of freefall before it was later exposed by shifting sediment. This was impossible under the traditional drift narrative, unless the impact wasn't the chaotic spiral investigators assumed, unless the aircraft entered the water at a specific angle, not belly first, not nose down, but in a way that preserved major structural elements. Renner's mind raced. This would rewrite everything. The drone moved along the trench floor, scanning pieces embedded too deeply for cameras to see. Synthetic aperture sonar rendered each object layer by layer. What emerged was a pattern of alignment. Fuselage section angled southeast. Wing root angled the same direction. Debris scar flowing downward along the same vector. Metallic shards arranged in a line rather than scattered aircraft debris fields usually radiate outwards. But this one behaved like a single body, one that entered the ocean intact, then broke apart after burial. Renner whispered, "This is not a freefall signature." Her assistant frowned. "Then what is it?" She shook her head. "We're looking at a controlled structure that hit the seabed in one violent piece, not in fragments." This was not what anyone expected. And there was more. As AUV-9 crept forward, its sonar emitted another burst. This time, the reflection came back with an unusual tone, a tight, consistent harmonic echo that suggested a cylindrical chamber deeper within the sediment. At first, it resembled an internal cargo compartment, but then the software isolated the resonance pattern. Renner's eyes widened. This wasn't cargo. It wasn't structure. It wasn't geological. It was a pressurized cavity, one that somehow had not collapsed. Her assistant blinked. At this depth? Impossible. Renner felt her heart pound. Pressure at 5,000 meters should crush anything not reinforced. Yet something down there still held its shape. That meant it was sealed. The internal space was still intact, and whatever was inside had not been exposed to the ocean. The retention system of the pressure hull on a 777 should have failed long ago, unless the aircraft entered the water with minimal rotational force, preserving structural integrity long enough for burial to protect it. Everything in the sediment, every reflection, every density map told the same story. MH370 did not break apart on the surface. It hit the ocean intact, and something inside was still sealed. But the deeper the scan went, the stranger things became. Because the cavity was not empty. The sonar reflected shapes, faint, irregular, impossible to identify, inside the sealed chamber. Renner's breath trembled. What in the world is down there? The drone froze in place. A new acoustic signature appeared. Not metal, not sediment, not water. A slow rhythmic pulse. Weak, faint, repeating. The same pulse that triggered the recon mission. The one no one could explain. The one the drone's 100 times stronger sonar caught. And the older systems missed. Something inside that sealed chamber was still resonating, still echoing, still speaking. Renner stepped back. This changes everything. The drone hovered in the water column, its stabilizers humming softly as the sealed chamber beneath the sediment continued emitting that faint, rhythmic pulse. For a moment, nobody in the control room spoke. It wasn't fear, it was disbelief, the kind that settles in when the ocean reveals something that should, by every law of physics and engineering, be impossible. Renner broke the silence. Begin harmonic decomposition. I want to isolate the internal reflections. AUV-9 deployed its quantum resolution sonar in a low-power mode, designed to analyze the quality of a signal, not just its source. The display filled with cascading lines of data, frequencies, delays, resonance curves. Most were consistent with a sealed metal cavity, but one set of harmonics was not. A line appeared on the screen, then another, then a third, repeating at precise intervals. 1.67 seconds. Renner zoomed in. This wasn't random oscillation. It wasn't structural reverberation. It wasn't sediment settling. It was a patterned signal inside a chamber buried under 100 meters of water and sediment. The assistant frowned. I don't understand. Nothing down there is transmitting. Renner nodded. That's what makes this so strange. We're not hearing a broadcast, we're hearing a memory. The ocean had preserved the final acoustic imprint of whatever occurred inside that sealed compartment. A fingerprint of the last moments before the chamber was crushed under pressure and buried by shifting seabed. But the pattern didn't match any known emergency system. Not an ELT, not a transponder, not a cockpit recorder pinger. Then Renner froze, because she recognized the sequence, not instantly, not fully, but the 1.67 second spacing. It matched a fragmented version of the Inmarsat satellite handshake timing, the same timing used to track MH370's final arc across the Indian Ocean. Except this version was different. The timing was shifted by hours. Renner ran the pulse timing against the known Inmarsat data. According to official reconstruction, MH370 lost power, then performed one last satellite handshake, a ping, at 0019 UTC on March 8th, shortly before crashing into the ocean. But the chamber's preserved acoustic memory told a different story. It reflected a timing signature consistent not with the final moment, but with a later handshake, one that does not exist in the public record. The assistant whispered, "Are you saying the plane was still powered 2.5 hours after the official timeline?" Renner didn't answer. She ran the numbers again. They matched. She opened the frequency visualizer. The pattern repeated. Always 1.67 seconds. Always shifted by the same margin. She exhaled. This signal doesn't lie. If this chamber preserved the last active acoustic environment inside the aircraft, then MH370 was still generating handshake pattern oscillations long after we thought the plane hit the water. The room fell silent again. If this were true, then the plane didn't run out of fuel when investigators believed the aircraft remained intact far longer. The descent zone might be entirely wrong, and the official timeline of MH370's final hours was incomplete or incorrect. But the implications went deeper. Because this chamber, buried, sealed, protected, preserved those oscillations like an ancient fossil. It captured a moment no one knew existed. A moment after the world believed MH370 was already gone. AUV-9 performed another narrow-beam scan on the cavity. This time, the internal shapes became clearer. Not bodies, not cargo, not wreckage fragments, but 3 distinct objects arranged in a triangular cluster. Renner activated the density profiler. The readout appeared. Dense, metallic, cylindrical. Her pulse quickened. Those aren't seats, they're not luggage, they're... She hesitated. Electronic modules. The assistant blinked. From the avionics bay? No, these are bigger. She highlighted the density signature. These modules match the architecture of a communication relay bank. The assistant stepped back. But that's located in the main electronics bay. How would parts of the relay bank end up inside a sealed compartment that's not supposed to be underwater? Renner didn't answer immediately, because there was only one explanation. Only one scenario where communication modules could be found inside a pressurized compartment that survived impact. A scenario that contradicted the drifting ghost flight theory, and the uncontrolled dive theory, and even the controlled ditching theory. A scenario no investigator ever seriously considered. Renner finally spoke. The only way those modules are inside that chamber is if the aircraft remained structurally intact long after the loss of transponder contact, and if power was still being routed when the chamber sealed. The assistant swallowed hard. That means the plane wasn't dead when everyone thought it was. Renner nodded slowly. It means MH370 stayed alive. Suddenly, The rhythmic 1.67-second echo intensified. AUV-9 sensors lit up. Renner's heart froze. The chamber wasn't broadcasting. It was responding. Not actively, but as sediment shifted under the drone's vibrations, the cavity walls resonated more clearly, amplifying the preserved pattern. Like replaying the final heartbeat of an aircraft long after its death. Renner stepped closer to the monitor. Record everything. This is the first unfiltered acoustic evidence from inside the aircraft since 2014. She didn't say the rest aloud. This was proof. Proof the official timeline was incomplete. Proof the aircraft's systems behaved differently than investigators believed. Proof something happened after 019 UTC, something no one had accounted for. And if the timing inside that chamber was real, then somewhere inside the wreckage, buried beneath kilometers of water and sediment, a part of MH370 may have been functioning long after the world stopped listening. As a UV-9 pulled away from the trench, the last scan of the sealed chamber processed on the monitors. The rhythmic echo faded, but its meaning didn't. The timing mismatch, the intact structure, the preserved electronics, all of it pointed to one conclusion. MH370's final moments were not what the world believed. The discovery forced investigators to reconsider everything: the flight path, the power timeline, even the final impact scenario. If the aircraft remained functional long after the official record ended, the search area might have been wrong from the beginning. And now, for the first time in 11 years, the ocean had given a direction. Not rumor, not drift modeling, a location, a real one. The search vessel prepared for a return mission, equipped with heavier imaging tools and a plan to excavate the chamber. Whatever lies beneath the sediment, the fuselage, the electronics, the final pieces of the puzzle, may finally reveal what happened on that night in 2014. But until the excavation begins, one truth remains. The ocean didn't hide MH370 forever. It simply waited for technology to catch up. And now that it has, the world is closer than ever to an answer. One buried in silence for more than a decade, and one that may rewrite aviation history the moment it rises to the surface.